The reason that certain people fall out of your life is not because they are bad people. It is not because of these narratives of malice that we come to create about how terrible people are because they left us. Have you ever thought that the reason, right, why certain people leave you is because you're special? Because you are favored, because you, right, are favored by the God that created this world, and your purpose is so big that this God was like, why should I allow, right, my most favored, my child, right, to be hanging around people who are degrading their purpose? Why, right, would God sit there and be like, no, this friend, right, is clearly losing themselves and losing their identity and is about to be a terrible impact on this person, my favorite person, this person who is clearly making a difference in this world and has a big purpose, right? Why would I want my own favored, right, my own flesh and blood, my identity, the person who's supposed to have this big idea and this big plan on this earth, why would I allow them to be hanging around people, right, who are going to drag their purpose down? I'm telling you, right, I have seen a lot of people who have the biggest purposes cry over the fact that certain people left their lives, cry over the fact that certain people, right, are no longer texting them and they don't seem to care about them, right? What about the God that cares about you? What about the bigger than life, right? This whole favor that is on your life, right? This big story that is in front of you. What about that? What about the fact that that is favoring you? What about the fact that that thing is what is thinking about you? This entire, like, spiritual realm is thinking about protecting you. And you're busy on some, oh my gosh, my friends left me. Oh my gosh, my friends don't text me. Oh my gosh, like, what? Don't you get tired of hearing yourself want to degrade your own future by hanging around people who shouldn't be in your life? Should or should you not? Because these are the very most realest things I wish I could tell people who have purpose in their life. People do not understand when you have a strong purpose, there's so many things trying to derail you. We all of us have to deal with the everyday struggles of life. Right now, add on top of that that you have this big purpose, and in addition to that, you have friends derailing your life. You have friends degrading your purpose. That doesn't make them bad, right? Do not associate things that people do with malice. Associate it with maybe that there's a spiritual force, or there's some big reason, there's some big purpose, right? That you, whatever your name is and your surname, right, that so and so is supposed to be this big brand that creates incredible purpose, that is supposed to be a multi-millionaire, billionaire, starts foundations and organizations that change this world. And here you are, busy crying about so and so who left you. How can that be? How ridiculous does that sound? No. How ridiculous does that sound? Because I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time, and I've also, and I say it with so much conviction because it's been me. And I remember getting this very big revelation from God, where God was like, he distanced me from so many of my friends. And when, for such a long period of time, I was grieving it. It was like almost this misery that I was attracting. Obviously misery loves company, so I loved the misery of my own company, of convincing myself that I needed company that was bringing me misery in the first place. Because you never will grow if you're limited by the people around you. How can you say you want to be a multi-millionaire and you're surrounded by people who are still questioning whether they should invest? They're still asking you, no, investing is too risky. How can you make more money if you don't put money in, right? And where would you learn that principle? When you're surrounded by people who make money. One of the friends that has changed me the most and has made me, just admire myself the most is someone who is in heavy business. A friend who has built an organization from scratch, and he never, ever, and that brings me tears to my eyes, because I've been around people who have degraded me for saying I wanted big things. I've never seen a person support me so purely, is always willing. It's like, Elsie, they're always like, Elsie, give me a business idea. And I appreciate and I love that person with my whole heart, because he's also made me like that amongst other people. Sometimes we don't want to hear the truth. Sometimes we want to hear what we believe is the truth to us, what suits us at that moment. But it's not that you're isolated, or you're being, people are leaving you behind. And because let me tell you, I also had this complex, right? This victim complex, victim complex, because it's not victim mentality. You're supposed to achieve great things, but it's a victim complex because you want to achieve great things, but you're being a victim that other people have left you. You start believing that Then you use this as some reason to feed your insecurities. Been there, done that. And I'm telling you for a fact, right? If you have a big purpose in this life, the people who you start with are not always going to be the people that you end with, unless those people want big things for themselves and they're willing to go. Because I have seen people who had the biggest plans for themselves. They told me that they wanted to change the world when they're in high school. They wanted to change their countries, right? And I would agree with them. I would say, we're gonna do this. This is our time. And they went off, right? And they started their own lives, right? Independently after high school, and there's no formal systems, and there's no one telling you what you should do, and there's no one, keeping you accountable. And those people completely lost that identity. Those people completely lost their reasoning. Those people completely lost their purpose in life. And I remember it hurting me when I had to, I wish that these people would come up. But because I was busy trying to pull myself, bring myself down to what they were going through. You can only do so much to help people. You can only do so much. But how can you help people to the extent that you're damaging yourself? You're damaging yourself. What about you? Because I was doing that for such a long time. To a point that I would pray every single night. I would say, God, I pray that you give me friends, right? That do not call me to tell me about the negativity, but they call me to tell me about positive things. They call me to tell me about the things that they're pursuing, because there is so much negativity. There's so many terrible things that happen in this world. There's so many terrible, even just ideas that we can come up with, overthinking terribly and negatively about the things that can happen. And the moment that those people left my life, the moment I had peace in my life, the moment I had peace to actually pursue my purpose and endure the struggles I was going through. Because how can you endure? How can you endure your tough times when you're surrounded by people who step on you by giving you negativity when you're on the floor? That is not friendship. That is not friendship. And that is unacceptable for somebody who has a purpose like yours. It is unacceptable. It is unacceptable that people should be in your vicinity, who allow you to be stepped on when you're on the ground, who allow you. And stepping on people is not, people always make it seem like this, like, my friend stepped on me and I was like, no, stepping on you can also just be constantly calling you with their problems, constantly using you as some therapist, constantly. People are trained. You do not have a degree in anything, psychotherapy. You do not have a degree in counseling. You do not. And even if you did, right, even if you are actually a trained psychologist, right, but your friends start using you as a psychologist and they have not registered formally with you, using the institutions, constitution, everything that, those licensings and certificates that you have to hang up in your office, unless your friend has directly come to you. And most of that time, all the time with a therapist, your friend cannot be your therapist. Why? Because it breaks confidentiality. It breaks, all these different forms of ethical procedures, right? So even if you are a trained psychologist, counselor, or even if your spiritual gift is to counsel other people, it is unacceptable for your friends to come be bringing you negativity. It is unacceptable for your friends to be there. When will you chase your purpose when your friends are derailing you? No, 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 no. No, I'm over it. But on a very serious note, now that my conviction has convicted, and I just want to say this honestly, people are not bad or inherently terrible for losing themselves, for not finding their identity, for not having a strong conviction that allows them to endure through challenges and remain purposeful in everything that they do. It is not, don't blame people. Don't be angry at people. Don't be bitter that your friends said that they were going to do something, or they said they were going to be something and they don't do those things. Right? But don't wallow on the fact that these people do not, that's just not a characteristic of them. Maybe in 10 years it will be. But what about yourself? What about your purpose? Because how many people are you costing by not pursuing your purpose? How many people are you costing that you don't know? How many people that you do not know? Because we are always so fixated on the fact that our purposes are somehow associated with people we know it's not. Rarely are the things that you do to make a difference in this world directly affecting your friends. Maybe indirectly, but it's not usually directly. So it doesn't matter what your friends of so-and-so think. Sometimes we have to be a lot more independent. We also have to be real with ourselves. I can love you from a distance. I can love you but not want you to have an effect on my life. I can love you but have, that cognizance to say, look, I love you but I'll only see you once a year. I love you but I'm not obligated to do things for you that derail me. I'm not obligated to do. I can be respectful. I can abide. I can be kind. I can, I will respect you. I would love you to the extent that I can, but I'm not losing myself after all the sacrifices that I have made, after all the things that I have endured, after every sacrifice, every night I have slept, every party I have missed, everything I have done to make sure that I walked through that purpose that God had and that calling that God had on my life when I gave him my life because he saved mine. I am not going to fail like the one being that believed in me and the one being that, that stood by me when I was in the mud multiple times in my life. I'm not going to betray the being that didn't betray me just for the facial surface level idea of friendship. So I can love you and I can love my friends, and guys, we can all appreciate, love each other, whatever, but do not allow your friends to derail your purpose. Do not allow it. Do not allow it. Friends can, people can also be acquaintances. We don't have to call them friends, because you cannot convince me that your own friends are derailing you and you're still calling it friendship. No. It doesn't work like that. Be independent. Be a baddie on your own rights. Be convicted on your own, because all of us are convicted. The more you act on your conviction, the more convicted you'll be. The more you act on your purpose and the more of a purpose you will have. The more things you will success. Success is just the routine of listening to that conviction and acting on it. And many of the time, conviction will tell us these friends or these people, as much as I love them, are derailing my purpose and my progress, are hurting me because of their own confusion, are making me a worse version of myself because they do not know who they are. And that is okay. That can be independent for me, but I am not an dependent variable. I'm not a graph. Our relationship is not a graph. This is not graph theory. There is no Hamilton circuits here. Anyways, on a very serious note, it's time that you pick yourself and your progress. It's time that you make yourself into the baddest you've ever been. It is time that you start making unbelievable amounts of money and you actually start living to your potential. Because why are you here? Progress and make a difference in this world by that thing that put you here in the first place. No. No more of, acting like you're not this person who has this incredible purpose in this life. There's no more acting like you're not, dimming your light. Who are you dimming your light for? The more your light shines, the more you make this world brighter. So, as my friend used to say, lift your shoulders, walk with your back, fix your posture, and be confident in who you are. And do not dim your light for anyone, family, friend, or other.